There are moments, rare moments, when something stops you in your tracks without warning. You weren't searching for this. You didn't plan to hear this. And yet, here you are, reading these words, feeling something deep within you shift, as if a quiet voice inside is whispering, "Pay attention, this matters. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is not just another message passing through your eyes. This is a divine interruption." Archangel Michael stands in the unseen, not distant, not symbolic, but present, watching, discerning, intervening. And when he speaks, it is never without purpose. It is never without urgency. It is never without reason. And right now, his voice is cutting through the noise of your everyday life to reach you in this exact moment. Because something has been happening quietly. Something you may have felt but couldn't explain. Have you noticed it? That strange feeling when your finances don't align with your effort, when opportunities seem to slip through your hands at the last second, when something that should have worked out just didn't. You tried to make sense of it. You told yourself it was timing, bad luck, maybe even your own mistake. But deep down it never fully made sense. There has been a pattern you couldn't quite see, a pattern you couldn't quite prove. But your spirit felt it. A subtle discomfort when certain names come out, that unexplainable tension in specific conversations, that moment when you felt watched, measured, or even quietly undermined, not by strangers but by people who know you, people who smile at you, people who call you family. And you dismissed it. You gave them the benefit of the doubt. You told yourself, "No, let them." But what if that hesitation, that instinct you pushed aside, was never wrong? What if it was the first whisper of revelation? Archangel Michael is not here to accuse. He is not here to create fear. He is here to reveal what hath been hidden, what has been moving behind your back while you were focused on moving forward. And this is why you were led here. Because heaven saw what you could not see. Heaven heard what you could not hear. Heaven recorded conversations that never reached your ears, decisions made without your knowledge, actions taken in silence that directly affected what was meant for you. And now, the timing has shifted. The moment of awareness has arrived. This is the point where confusion begins to turn into clarity, where intuition becomes confirmation, where what once felt like overthinking suddenly feels like undeniable truth. You were not meant to stay unaware. You were not meant to keep second-guessing yourself. You were not meant to keep losing what was already written in your name. And that is why this message found you now. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Now. Because something is building. Something is approaching. And the longer you remain unaware, the deeper the loss could go. Archangel Michael's presence grows stronger in this moment, not to overwhelm you, but to awaken you. His voice carries both warning and protection, urgency and guidance. He is not just revealing a problem, he is positioning you for a solution. But before anything can be restored, it must first be seen. Before anything can be reclaimed, it must first be exposed. And right now, you're standing at the edge of that exposure. This is the moment where everything begins to make sense. The delays, the confusion, the misalignment. It was never just circumstance. It was never just timing. There were hands involved. Familiar hands. Close hands. And as uncomfortable as that truth may feel, it is also the key to your freedom. So do not turn away from this. Do not dismiss this feeling rising within you right now. Because that feeling, that quiet but undeniable pull, is not fear. It is recognition. It is your spirit aligning with truth. It is the beginning of clarity breaking through the fog. Stay with this. Lean into this. Because what comes next will reveal more than you expected. and it will show you exactly what has been hidden in plain sight. Type "I am ready for the truth" in the comments if you feel this message stirring your spirit. Blessing code 1717 is now being activated around your awareness. There comes a moment when the atmosphere shifts from quiet unease into undeniable urgency, and this is that moment for you. Archangel Michael does not raise his voice without cause, and right now, his message is cutting through every layer of distraction surrounding you. He is not whispering anymore. He is warning. He is revealing. He is commanding your attention because something has already begun, and it is no longer hidden in the way it once was. The spiritual theft is not a future event. It is not something that might happen. It has already started, and that is why this message carries weight. That is why your spirit feels alert, almost as if something inside you is being shaken awake. Because deep down, part of you already sensed that something was off. You noticed the inconsistencies. You felt the imbalance. You questioned why certain financial flows never reached you the way they should have. You wondered why doors that were meant to open seemed to close without explanation. But every time you got close to questioning it, something pulled you back into silence. That silence was not accidental. It was strategic. Archangel Michael reveals that what is happening is not just physical, but spiritual in origin. Before anything manifests in the natural world, it is first moved, redirected, or interfered with in the unseen realm. And right now, there has been interference surrounding what was assigned to you, what carried your name, what was meant to arrive in your life as provision, as breakthrough, as financial elevation. Instead, it has been diverted, not by strangers, not by distant forces, but by individuals who have proximity to your life. This is where the warning becomes difficult to accept, because it challenges what you thought was safe. It challenges what you assumed was secure. Archangel Michael makes it clear that proximity does not equal loyalty, and familiarity does not guarantee protection. In fact, the closest circles often carry the greatest access, and access, when misused, becomes the gateway for interference. You may not have seen the actions directly, but you have felt the consequences. The delays that made no sense. The sudden lack where there should have been abundance. The feeling that something meant for you never quite reached you fully. These were not random disruptions. They were signs. Subtle at first, but consistent enough to leave an imprint on your spirit. And now, those subtle signs are becoming clear signals. The urgency in Michael's message is not to frighten you, but to awaken your awareness before further damage is done. Because the longer something remains unseen, the more power it holds. But the moment it is revealed, its control begins to weaken. That is why this moment matters. That is why you are being called to pay attention now, not later. There is movement happening behind your back. Conversations you were not part of. Decisions made without your knowledge. Opportunities that passed through hands that were not yours, even though they were meant to be. And while you continued forward, trusting the process, someone else was quietly positioning themselves within that process. Not loudly, not obviously, but strategically. Archangel Michael stands as a defender of truth, and what he is revealing is not based on assumption. It is based on what has been seen in the spiritual realm. Nothing is hidden there. Every intention, every action, every hidden motive is recorded, and now that record is being brought into your awareness. This is not about creating division. This is about restoring order. Because what has been taken or redirected cannot be restored until it is first acknowledged. And what has been hidden cannot be corrected until it is brought into the light. You are not being asked to react emotionally. You are being called to respond with awareness. You observe, to discern, to recognize patterns that you once ignored. The urgency also carries a time element. This is not a warning meant to sit idle. There is a window where clarity will increase, where signs will become more visible, where your intuition will sharpen in ways you cannot ignore. But you must remain present. You must not dismiss what you begin to notice, because what is being revealed will not come all at once. It will come in moments, in realizations, in sudden understanding that connects pieces you never connected before. This is the beginning of exposure. And exposure always feels uncomfortable before it feels freeing. But understand this clearly. You are not being left unprotected. The very reason this warning has reached you is because protection is already in motion. Archangel Michael does not reveal without also covering. He does not warn without also preparing. You are being positioned, not punished. You are being guided, not abandoned. Stay alert to what shifts around you now. Stay attentive to what feels different. Because the same awareness that reveals the interference will also guide you toward reclaiming what is yours. Type ISE clearly now in the comments if you are ready to receive this revelation. Blessing code 2222 is now surrounding your discernment. There is a moment in every awakening where the truth stops feeling distant and starts feeling personal. This is that moment for you. Because what Archangel Michael is revealing now is no longer just about unseen interference or spiritual redirection. It is about identity. It is about proximity. It is about the realization that the disruption in your life is connected to two specific individuals who are closer to you than you ever expected. This is where your spirit may hesitate. This is where your mind may resist. Because it is far easier to believe in distant opposition than it is to accept that the interference is coming from within your own circle. But Michael's voice does not waver. His message remains steady, clear, and undeniable. Two people. Not many. Not strangers. Not unknown forces. Two people who have had access to your life, your information, your movements, your opportunities. Two people who know more about you than others do, and that access has been used, not always in obvious ways, not in ways that would immediately expose them, but in subtle, calculated patterns that allowed them to position themselves in moments where something meant for you passed through their reach first. They did not need to take everything. They did not need to block everything. They only needed to intercept enough to create imbalance, enough to keep you questioning, enough to slow your progress without completely stopping it. And that is exactly what has been happening. You may begin to think back now. Moments where something felt slightly off, but you ignored it. Conversations where information about you seemed to travel faster than you shared it. Situations where opportunities shifted direction unexpectedly, as if someone else was already aware before you even fully understood what was happening. These were not coincidences. These were glimpses, small exposures that your intuition noticed, even when your logic tried to dismiss them. Archangel Michael is not asking you to accuse blindly. He is not asking you to confront without clarity. He is asking you to observe with discernment. Because the truth about these two individuals is not revealed through one single event. It is revealed through patterns, through repeated behavior, through the quiet alignment of moments that, when seen together, tell a story you can no longer ignore. These individuals do not necessarily appear as enemies. In fact, that is what makes this more complex. They appear familiar. They appear supportive at times. They speak in ways that maintain trust. But beneath that surface, there is a different intention operating, not always driven by direct malice, but by something deeper: envy, insecurity, entitlement, or even a belief that they deserve what you have been assigned. And that belief has led to action. Action that may have seemed small in isolation but significant over time. Redirecting information, positioning themselves in financial pathways, influencing decisions when your name was involved, quietly stepping into spaces that were not meant for them, but were accessible because of their connection to you. This is why the interference felt so difficult to identify, because it was not coming from outside resistance. It was coming from inside access. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this is not about reacting in anger. It is about recognizing truth so that you can protect what remains and reclaim what has been affected. You are not being shown this to break your trust in everyone around you. You are being shown this to refine your discernment, to understand that not every connection carries the same intention, even if it carries the same familiarity. You may start to notice shifts now, small details becoming clearer, words that once felt harmless now carrying a different meaning, behaviors that once seemed normal now standing out with new significance. This is not your imagination. This is your awareness increasing. This is the beginning of you seeing what was always there but hidden beneath assumption. And as this awareness grows, you will begin to feel a separation, not necessarily physical at first, but energetic. A distance forming where closeness once felt natural. This is part of the process. This is your spirit recalibrating, aligning itself away from what no longer supports your path. Archangel Michael stands as a witness to this transition. He is not removing people from your life without purpose. He is revealing their position so that you can choose how to move forward with clarity instead of confusion. You are not powerless in this. You are not late in realizing this. You are exactly at the moment where truth becomes visible enough for you to act with wisdom. And as uncomfortable as this realization may feel, it is also the turning point. Because once you see clearly, the hidden hands lose their advantage. Once you recognize the pattern can no longer control you. Stay grounded in this awareness. Do not rush to conclusions, but do not ignore what is being revealed. Because the next phase will bring even greater clarity, and with it, the opportunity to fully understand the role these individuals have played. Type "I discern the truth" in the comments if you are ready to see beyond appearances. Lesson code 3333 is now activating clarity within your spirit. As this truth begins to settle into your spirit, understand that every revelation you receive here is not just for you. It is a light being extended to countless others who are still in darkness, still questioning, still unaware. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description or QR code on your screen, you are not giving to a channel. You are sowing into a divine harvest of awakening souls. The word declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not just scripture. It is a living promise speaking directly into your moment. I feel the call rising within me, and I respond not out of obligation, but out of alignment with what heaven is doing right now. Your act of giving becomes a seed that unlocks clarity, protection, and restoration not only for others, but for your own path as well. This is not just support. It is participation in a divine assignment that is moving in real time. Step into this moment with faith, knowing that what you release will return multiplied in ways you cannot yet see. Act now, and let your seed become a voice that reaches the one who needs this message next. There is a realm beyond what your eyes can see, beyond what your ears can hear, where nothing is hidden and nothing is overlooked. This is the realm Archangel Michael now draws your attention toward, the spiritual courtroom. And in this courtroom, truth is not debated. It is documented, Every action, every intention, every hidden movement that has affected your life has already been recorded with precision. You may feel like you are just now becoming aware, but heaven has been aware all along. Long before this message reached you, long before your suspicions began to form, long before you started noticing the imbalance, the case concerning your name had already been opened. Not in secrecy, not in confusion, but in absolute clarity. Archangel Michael stands not only as a warrior but also as a witness in this courtroom. He has seen what was done. He has heard what was spoken. He has observed what was intended. And now, he is revealing to you that this situation has never been outside of divine awareness. This changes everything. Because when something is brought into the spiritual courtroom, it is no longer operating unchecked. It is no longer moving without accountability. There is a shift that happens the moment heaven acknowledges what has been done. A shift from silence to exposure. A shift from hidden interference to divine review. You may have wondered why, despite everything, things did not completely collapse in your life. Why, even in moments of loss or confusion, something still sustained you. Something still protected you from total depletion. That was not luck. That was not coincidence. That was the effect of divine oversight. Even while interference was happening, there were boundaries placed around what could be taken, what could be redirected, and what had to remain untouched. Because heaven does not allow complete destruction over what carries purpose. Archangel Michael reveals that the individuals involved may have believed their actions were unnoticed. They may have operated under the assumption that what was done quietly would remain hidden indefinitely. But in the spiritual courtroom, secrecy does not exist. Every decision carries weight. Every action produces evidence. And that evidence has already been reviewed. This is not about punishment in the way the world understands it. This is about order. Divine order. What was misaligned must be realigned. What was taken must be accounted for. What was redirected must be traced. And what belongs to you must be acknowledged as yours within that higher authority before it can be restored in your physical reality. This is why awareness is being given to you now. Because once you become aware, you are no longer operating blindly within a situation that has already been addressed in the spiritual realm. You begin to align with what heaven has already established. You begin to move with clarity instead of confusion. You begin to recognize that what you are stepping into is not a reaction, but a continuation of a process that has already started beyond your sight. There is also something else you must understand. In the spiritual courtroom, timing matters. There are moments when revelation is released, and there are moments when it is withheld until you are ready to receive it without fear, without denial, without hesitation. This is that moment for you. Not earlier, because you may not have been ready to see clearly. Not later, because the situation has reached a point where your awareness is now necessary for what comes next. Archangel Michael is not revealing this to overwhelm you. He is revealing this to position you within a greater alignment. You are no longer outside of the process. You are now consciously part of it. Your awareness becomes agreement with truth. And agreement with truth activates movement. You may begin to notice something subtle but powerful now. A sense of calm beneath the seriousness of this revelation. That calm is not dismissal. It is not avoidance. It is the assurance that what is being exposed is already under control at a level greater than what you can see. You are not being left to handle this alone. The courtroom is not empty. Heaven is present. Justice is not delayed in the way you may have perceived. It has been unfolding in ways you could not yet interpret. And now, you are being brought into that unfolding, step by step, layer by layer, understanding by understanding, This is where your posture shifts. You are no longer questioning whether something is wrong. You are recognizing that something has already been identified, already been reviewed, already been set into motion for correction. Your role now is not to panic. It is not to react impulsively. It is to stay aligned with the clarity that is being given to you. Because what has been revealed in the spiritual courtroom will not remain there. It will begin to reflect in your reality. Truth does not stay hidden once it is brought into divine order. And as this process continues, what was once concealed will become undeniable, not through chaos, but through clarity that cannot be ignored. Type "I align with divine order" in the comments if you are ready to walk in this awareness. Lesson code 4444 is now establishing protection and justice around your path. There is something powerful that happens when truth begins to rise within you, not as noise, not as confusion, but as quiet recognition. This is where you are now. Because what Archangel Michael is revealing in this moment is not entirely new to your spirit. It is confirmation. It is the awakening of something you have already felt, already sensed, already questioned, but perhaps never fully trusted. You have been given signs. Not once, not randomly, but repeatedly. And the reason they felt easy to dismiss before is because they did not come in loud, dramatic ways. They came subtly, gently, quietly weaving themselves into your daily experiences, waiting for the moment when you would be ready to see them for what they truly are. Discernment does not begin as certainty. It begins as discomfort. That slight pause in your spirit when something does not align. That moment where a conversation feels off even though the words sound right. That inner hesitation when you share something and immediately feel like you should not have said as much as you did. These are not overreactions. These are not coincidences. These are signals, and you have felt them. You may recall specific moments now, as your awareness deepens. Times when you questioned someone's tone, even though nothing openly negative was said. Times when you noticed information about you being known by others without you directly sharing it. Times when something that was meant to involve you shifted direction in a way that did not make sense, as if someone else had already positioned themselves ahead of you. At the time, you may have explained it away. You may have told yourself you were overthinking. You may have chosen peace over questioning, comfort over confrontation, familiarity over uncertainty. But those moments did not disappear. They stayed with you. They formed a pattern. And now, that pattern is being illuminated. Archangel Michael is not introducing something foreign into your life. He is bringing clarity to what has already been present. The signs you received were not meant to confuse you. They were meant to prepare you, to gradually sharpen your awareness so that when this moment of revelation arrived, you would recognize it, not reject it. This is how discernment grows, not through sudden shock, but through accumulated awareness. You may also begin to notice how your energy has responded around certain individuals. Not always in obvious ways, but in subtle shifts. A sense of heaviness after interactions. A feeling of being drained without clear reason. A need to withdraw or create distance even when nothing visibly wrong occurred. These are not random emotional responses. These are your spirit responding to what your mind had not yet fully processed. Your body, your intuition, your awareness. They have been communicating with you long before your thoughts caught up. And now, everything is aligning. This is the awakening. The moment where what you felt becomes what you understand. Where what you sense becomes what you see. Where what you question becomes what you can no longer ignore. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this awakening is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create clarity. Because discernment is not about suspicion of everyone around you. It is about recognizing what aligns and what does not. It is about identifying patterns without becoming consumed by them. It is about seeing truth without losing your sense of stability. You are not being turned into someone who doubts everything. You are being refined into someone who understands more. And that understanding brings power. Not power over others, but power within yourself. The power to choose what you engage with. The power to recognize what no longer serves you. The power to protect what is yours without needing external validation. As this discernment continues to awaken, you may find that certain things become clear without effort. You may notice connections forming between past experiences that once seemed unrelated. You may begin to understand why certain situations unfolded the way they did, why certain people behaved the way they did, why certain outcomes never fully reached you. This clarity will not come all at once. It will unfold, layer by layer, mode by mode. And with each layer, your confidence in your own perception will grow. This is important, because one of the greatest disruptions you experienced was not just the interference itself, but the doubt it created within you. The second guessing, the questioning of your own instincts, the hesitation to trust what you felt. That doubt is now being removed, replaced with awareness, replaced with clarity, replaced with a steady understanding that you are capable of seeing what is real, even when it is not immediately visible. Stay grounded in this process. Do not rush it. Do not force conclusions. Allow the signs to continue revealing themselves naturally, because what is true does not need to be forced into visibility. It becomes clear in its own time, especially when your awareness is aligned with it. And right now, your awareness is aligning. Type "I trust my discernment" in the comments if you are ready to walk in clarity. Blessing code 5555 is now strengthening your inner awareness. There is a shift that happens before truth is fully revealed, a quiet but undeniable change in the atmosphere around you. It does not arrive with noise. It does not announce itself with certainty. Instead, it settles in slowly, altering how things feel before you understand why they feel that way. This is the shift you have been experiencing, and it is not imagined. It is not emotional instability. It is the result of something deeper unfolding around you. Archangel Michael is drawing your attention to this shift because it is one of the clearest indicators that something has been out of alignment. When energy changes, it reflects movement beneath the surface. It reflects interactions, intentions, and influences that are not always visible but are always present. And in your case, that shift has been consistent enough to catch your attention, even if you could not explain it. You may have noticed that certain environments no longer feel the same. Spaces that once brought comfort now feel heavy. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel strained or guarded. Even silence in certain moments carries a different weight, as if something unspoken is present between you and others. This is not coincidence. This is not simply change over time. This is the result of energy being affected by hidden dynamics. Energy does not lie, even when words do, even when appearances remain unchanged, even when everything looks normal on the surface. The shift you have felt is your awareness responding to what your eyes have not yet fully seen. It is your spirit detecting misalignment before your mind can define it. And this is why it has been so difficult to ignore, even when you tried to rationalize it. You may have found yourself withdrawing slightly without knowing why, feeling the need for space without a clear reason, becoming more observant, more quiet, more aware of small details that once seemed insignificant. These are not random changes in your behavior. These are adjustments. your internal system responding to external imbalance. Archangel Michael reveals that when something is being taken, redirected, or interfered with, it creates an energetic disturbance. That disturbance does not remain isolated. It spreads. It affects interactions, perceptions, and emotional responses. It creates a subtle tension that lingers, even when no one speaks about it. This is what you have been feeling. Not fear, not paranoia, but disruption. A disruption that has been trying to remain hidden while still influencing your reality. You may also notice how your reactions have changed. Situations that once felt normal now trigger deeper reflection. Words that once passed without thought now stay with you longer. You find yourself replaying moments not out of anxiety, but because something about them feels incomplete, as if there is more beneath the surface. This is awareness expanding. This is your perception sharpening. And with the sharpening comes a temporary sense of discomfort, because you are no longer moving through your environment unconsciously. You are noticing. You are sensing. You are connecting pieces that once felt separate. This is part of the process. The energy shift is not meant to destabilize you. It is meant to alert you, to bring your attention to what has been operating quietly in the background. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this phase is critical because it prepares you for what comes next. Without this shift, the truth would feel sudden, overwhelming, difficult to process. But with this gradual awareness, you are being eased into clarity. You are being given time to adjust, to observe, to understand without being forced into immediate reaction. You may also begin to notice that your tolerance for certain interactions is decreasing. Things you once overlooked now stand out more clearly. Behaviors you once excused now feel more significant. This is not you becoming distant or disconnected. This is you becoming aligned with a higher level of awareness. And alignment changes what you can accept. It changes what feels natural. It changes what feels right. As this continues, you will feel a growing need for clarity. Not confrontation, not conflict, but understanding. A quiet but steady desire to see things as they truly are, without distortion, without assumption, without denial. This is where the shift leads. From feeling to knowing, from sensing to seeing, from questioning to understanding. Archangel Michael stands within this transition, not to rush you through it, but to guide you within it. He reminds you that the discomfort you feel is temporary, but the clarity that follows is lasting. You are not losing your sense of stability. You are refining it. This is the moment where the unseen begins to affect the seen, where energy becomes evidence, where feeling becomes recognition. And as this recognition strengthens, you will find yourself moving differently, thinking differently, responding differently, not out of fear, but out of awareness. Stay present in this shift. Do not resist it, because it is leading you directly into the clarity you have been searching for. Type "I accept the shift" in the comments if you feel this transformation happening within you. Blessing code 6666 is now aligning your energy with truth and protection. There is a truth that is difficult to accept, not because it is unclear, but because it challenges what you have always believed about safety, trust, and connection. This is the truth Archangel Michael is now placing before you. Not everything that feels familiar is aligned with your well-being. Not everyone who shares your space shares your intention. And not every bond, even one formed by family, is operating in your favor. This is where the mask of familiarity comes into focus. Because what makes this situation so complex is not just what had been done, but who had been involved. These are not distant figures. These are not people who exist on the edges of your life. These are individuals who have stood within your circle, who have spoken your name with ease, who have shared moments, memories, and access that others never had. And it is that access that has created the gateway. Familiarity creates trust. Trust creates openness. And openness, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes vulnerability. You did not make a mistake by trusting. You did not fail by believing in the sincerity of those close to you. That is not where the issue began. The issue began where that trust was not honored, where that openness was quietly used, where that familiarity became a pathway rather than a protection. Archangel Michael reveals that the individuals involved have not always presented themselves in a way that would raise immediate concern. Their actions were not loud. Their intentions were not openly declared. They operated within the normal flow of relationship, within the expectations of connection, within the comfort of being known. And because of that, their presence never felt like a threat. But familiarity can disguise intention. It can soften perception. It can make you overlook what you would question in anyone else. This is why the gateway remained open. Not because you were unaware, but because the context of the relationship made it difficult to see beyond what you had always known. You expected consistency. You expected alignment. You expected that those closest to you would naturally protect what belonged to you. But expectation does not always reflect reality. And this is where the shift you have been experiencing connects directly to this revelation. Because as your awareness has increased, the mask has begun to weaken. The same familiarity that once created comfort is now creating questions. The same interactions that once felt normal now carry a different weight. The same presence that once felt neutral now feels layered, as if something unspoken exists beneath it. This is not your imagination. This is the mask losing its hold. Archangel Michael is not asking you to reject the concept of family. He is asking you to redefine what alignment within family truly means. Because connection by blood or history does not automatically guarantee alignment in purpose, intention, or integrity. And when those elements are not aligned, familiarity becomes a cover rather than a connection. You may begin to recognize how certain patterns were sustained through this familiarity. How access was maintained because there was no reason to question it. How information flowed freely because it felt safe to share. How presence was constant because it was expected. And within all of that, subtle shifts occurred. Small actions, quiet decisions, moments that seemed insignificant but contributed to a larger pattern over time. This is how the gateway remained active. Not through force, not through confrontation, but through continuity. Through the ongoing assumption that everything within that space was secure. Archangel Michael now brings your attention to the importance of awareness within familiarity. Not to create distance for the sake of isolation, but to create clarity within connection. You are not being asked to remove yourself entirely from every relationship. You are being guided to recognize where alignment exists and where it does not. This recognition changes everything. Because once you see clearly, the gateway can no longer operate unnoticed. Access can no longer be taken for granted. Boundaries can begin to form, not out of fear, but out of understanding. You begin to choose what is shared, how it is shared, and with whom it is shared. This is not withdrawal. This is refinement. This is you stepping into a position where familiarity no longer overrides awareness, where connection no longer replaces discernment, where presence no longer guarantees trust without alignment. As this continues, you may feel a shift in how you engage, a natural pull toward more intentional interaction, a quieter, more observant presence, a sense of holding your space differently, not closing yourself off, but no longer leaving everything open. This is part of your evolution within this process. Archangel Michael stands within this transition, not removing what is unnecessary, but revealing what must be understood. Because once you understand the role familiarity has played, you are no longer vulnerable to its misuse. You are no longer operating from assumption. You are operating from awareness. And awareness closes gateways that were once left open. Stay grounded in this understanding. Do not let guilt or hesitation pull you back into old patterns of unquestioned trust. You are not betraying anyone by becoming aware. You are honoring yourself by recognizing truth. And as this truth settles within you, the path forward becomes clearer, stronger, and far more protected than before. Type ISE beyond familiarity in the comments if you are ready to walk in this awareness. Blessing code 7777 is now strengthening your boundaries and clarity. There is a deeper layer to everything you have been shown so far, and this is the layer that explains why all of this has been happening in the first place. Because this is not random. This is not accidental. This is not simply the result of human behavior or coincidence. There is a reason you were targeted, and Archangel Michael is now revealing it with unmistakable clarity. You carry something valuable, not just in the physical sense, not just in terms of money or opportunity, but in what has been assigned to your life. There is a flow connected to your name, a pathway of provision, growth, and elevation that was never meant to stop with you, but to move through you. And anything that carries that level of purpose naturally attracts attention, both aligned and misaligned. This is where the battle begins. Because when something is assigned to you, it does not always arrive without resistance. There are forces, both seen and unseen, that respond to movement, especially when that movement leads toward growth. And in your case, that response did not come from distant opposition. It came from proximity. It came from those who had access to what you carried. Archangel Michael makes it clear that this was not simply about taking from you. It was about redirecting what flows through you. Because if the flow is interrupted, even slightly, it creates delay. It creates imbalance. It creates a situation where you are still moving forward, but not at the level you were meant to. And that is exactly what has been happening. You were never completely blocked. You were never completely stopped. But you were slowed, diverted, disrupted just enough to keep you from fully stepping into what was already aligned for you. This is strategic, because complete blockage would have been obvious. It would have forced immediate questioning, immediate awareness, immediate action. But partial interference creates confusion. It creates a situation where you continue moving, but with just enough inconsistency to make you doubt your own direction. And doubt is one of the most effective ways to maintain control without being seen. This is why the battle over your blessings has felt so subtle, yet so persistent. It was not designed to break you instantly. It was designed to wear you down gradually, to make you question your timing, to make you reconsider your path, to make you wonder if what you expected was ever truly meant for you. But Archangel Michael interrupts that doubt now. He reminds you that what is assigned to you does not disappear because of interference. It may be delayed. It may be redirected temporarily. But it does not lose its connection to your name. It does not lose its origin. And it does not lose its ability to return. This is why awareness is so critical in this moment. Because once you understand that this has been a battle, you stop internalizing the outcome as your failure. You stop blaming yourself for inconsistencies that were not created by your actions. You stop carrying responsibility for disruptions that originated outside of your control. You begin to see clearly, and clarity shifts everything. Archangel Michael reveals that the individuals involved were not just responding to circumstance, they were responding to what they saw in you. Whether consciously or unconsciously, they recognized value. They recognized movement. They recognized that something was connected to you that they either did not have or did not believe they could access on their own. And instead of aligning with that, they positioned themselves within it. This is where the targeting becomes personal. Not because you were weak, but because you were positioned. Because you carried something worth intercepting. Because your path was moving in a direction that others wanted to benefit from without being aligned to it. This does not diminish you. It confirms you. It confirms that what you carry has weight. It confirms that your path has significance. It confirms that what has been assigned to you is real enough to be contested. And now that contest is being exposed, Archangel Michael stands firm within this revelation, not just as a witness, but as a protector. He makes it clear that the exposure of this battle is the beginning of its end. Because once something is seen, it can no longer operate in the same way. Once something is understood, it loses the advantage it once had. You are no longer moving through this unaware. You are no longer being affected without recognition. You are now positioned to respond with clarity, not confusion. And that response does not require force. It requires alignment. Alignment with truth. Alignment with awareness. Alignment with the understanding that what is yours cannot be permanently taken, only temporarily interfered with. As you move forward from this moment, the battle begins to shift in your favor. Not because it suddenly started, but because you have now stepped into a position where you can see it for what it is. And seeing it is the first step toward ending it. Type "I claim what is mine" in the comments if you are ready to step into this authority. Blessing code 8888 is now activating restoration and protection over your blessings. As this battle over your blessings becomes clear, understand that every light you receive here is meant to reach beyond you and touch lives that are still waiting in silence for this same awakening. When you release a super thanks or give through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not just supporting content. You are sowing into a harvest of clarity, protection, and divine truth for others. The word declares, "Whoever sows generously will also reap generously," and this is your moment to step into that living promise. I feel the call to act, to participate in something greater than myself, and to become a vessel through which this message continues to flow. Your giving is not ordinary. It is a prophetic act that unlocks movement, both in your life and in the lives of those who are about to receive this same revelation. As you sow, heaven responds, lighting resources, restoring what was delayed, and opening paths you did not expect. This is the moment to move, not later, not when it feels convenient, but now, while the call is active. Step forward in faith and let your seed become a voice that carries this truth where it is needed next. There is a moment in every hidden situation where silence can no longer sustain itself, where what has been concealed begins to press against the surface, demanding to be seen. This is that moment in your life. This is where everything you have felt, everything you have sensed, everything that has remained just out of reach of your understanding begins to rise into clarity. Archangel Michael is not only revealing what has happened, he is announcing that the phase of concealment is ending. Truth is not something that remains buried forever. It may be delayed. It may be distorted. It may be hidden behind layers of familiarity and misdirection. But it does not disappear. And now, it is rising. You may begin to notice changes unfolding around you that feel subtle at first, but undeniable once they connect. Conversations that reveal more than intended. Reactions that feel out of proportion to simple situations. slips in behavior, in tone, in consistency. These are not random shifts. These are cracks in the structure that once held everything hidden. Because maintaining secrecy requires control, and control becomes harder to maintain once awareness enters the situation. Archangel Michael reveals that the individuals involved are already feeling this shift, even if they cannot fully explain it. They may not understand why things feel different, why their usual patterns no longer feel as stable, why certain interactions feel more exposed than before. But what they are experiencing is the beginning of exposure. When truth begins to rise, it creates pressure that reveals what was never meant to stay hidden indefinitely. You may notice that your presence alone begins to affect the atmosphere, not through confrontation, not through accusation, but simply through awareness. When you become aware, your energy changes, your responses change, your attention sharpens, and that shift creates a subtle but powerful contrast between what is real and what hath been concealed. This is why exposure often happens without direct action, because truth carries its own momentum. It does not always require force. It requires alignment, and you are aligning with it now. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this phase is not about seeking confrontation. It is not about forcing answers or demanding explanations. It is about allowing truth to reveal itself in its own timing, through its own process. Because forced exposure creates resistance, but natural exposure creates clarity. There is a difference, and that difference determines how stable the outcome will be. As this unfolds, you may feel a mix of emotions. Relief, because things are beginning to make sense. Discomfort, because the reality of what has been happening becomes more real. And a sense of stillness, because deep down, you know that this moment was inevitable. This is not chaos. This is correction. This is the moment where what has been misaligned begins to realign, not through disruption, but through revelation. Archangel Michael stands within this process as both witness and protector. He ensures that what is revealed does not overwhelm you but strengthens you. He ensures that the clarity you receive comes with the stability you need to process it without losing your center. Because exposure is not meant to break you. It is meant to free you. You may begin to see connections more clearly now. How certain outcomes were influenced. How certain opportunities shifted direction. How certain interactions carried more weight than you originally realized. This is not overthinking. This is understanding. And understanding removes confusion. Once confusion is removed, control is removed. Because what was once hidden behind uncertainty can no longer operate in the same way once it is clearly seen. This is the turning point. A moment where what was working against you begins to lose its ability to function. Not because you fought it directly, but because you saw it. Archangel Michael reminds you that truth does not need defense. It does not need to be justified or proven once it is revealed. It stands on its own. And as it stands, everything built on distortion begins to weaken naturally. You are not required to force outcomes in this moment. You are required to remain aware, to observe without reacting impulsively, to allow the process to unfold without interference. Because what is being exposed is not just behavior, it is intention. And once intention is revealed, everything else follows. This is where power shifts, not through confrontation, but through clarity, not through reaction, but through awareness. And as this continues, you will find that what once felt uncertain becomes undeniable. What once felt hidden becomes visible. What once felt confusing becomes clear. This is the moment of exposure, and it is already in motion. Stay steady within it. Because what is rising now will not return to where it was. Truth does not retreat once it hath been revealed. Type "I embrace the truth" in the comments if you are ready to stand in clarity. Blessing code 9999 is now activating full exposure and understanding in your life. There comes a moment after truth is revealed when the focus must shift from what was done to what you will now do with that awareness. This is that moment. Because Archangel Michael is not only revealing what has been hidden, he is calling you into your authority. Not a forceful, reactive authority, but a grounded, unwavering alignment with what rightfully belongs to you. You were never meant to remain in a position of quiet loss. You were never meant to accept interference as your normal. You were never meant to carry the weight of something being taken without stepping into the truth that you have the power to reclaim it. This is where your posture changes, not outwardly at first, but internally. Because authority does not begin with action. It begins with recognition. Recognition of what is yours. Recognition of what has been affected. Recognition that what was assigned to you still carries your name, regardless of what has been done around it. Archangel Michael makes this clear: nothing that belongs to you has lost its identity. It has not been erased. It has not been reassigned permanently. It has not been removed from your path in a way that cannot be corrected. What has occurred is interference, not erasure. And interference can be reversed. But reversal begins with alignment. You must first stand in the truth that you are no longer unaware. You are no longer disconnected from what has been happening. You are no longer operating without clarity. And that shift alone changes the position you hold within the situation. Because awareness restores authority. When you are unaware, things can move around you without resistance. When you become aware, those same movements encounter a different presence, one that recognizes, one that observes, one that no longer allows quiet misalignment to continue without consequence. This does not require confrontation. This does not require immediate action. This requires stability. Archangel Michael emphasizes that reclaiming what is yours is not about reacting emotionally to what has been revealed. It is about standing firmly in alignment with truth and allowing that alignment to guide your next steps. Because when you move from clarity instead of reaction, your actions carry precision. You begin to choose differently. You begin to share differently. You begin to position yourself differently within your own life. And that repositioning naturally begins to redirect what flows toward you. You may notice that opportunities begin to feel more aligned again. As certain pathways begin to open more clearly. That what once felt diverted begins to find its way back toward you in unexpected ways. This is not coincidence. This is the result of you stepping back into alignment with what was always yours. Archangel Michael stands as a protector within this process. He is not asking you to reclaim through force. He is guiding you to reclaim through presence, through awareness, through a steady refusal to remain disconnected from what belongs to you. This is where your internal language shifts. You no longer think in terms of loss. You begin to think in terms of restoration. You no longer question whether something was meant for you. You begin to recognize that if it was assigned to you, it still carries your connection. This recognition removes hesitation. It removes doubt. It replaces uncertainty with a quiet confidence that does not need to prove itself externally. Because authority does not need to announce itself. It operates through alignment. As this alignment strengthens, you will also begin to feel less affected by the actions of those who interfered. Not because what happened did not matter, but because your focus is no longer on what they did. It is on what you are now reclaiming. This is an important shift, because staying focused on the interference keeps you connected to it. Shifting your focus to restoration disconnects you from it. Archangel Michael reminds you that you are not here to remain in reaction. You are here to move forward with clarity, carrying only what serves your path and releasing what does not. This is where boundaries become natural, not forced, not defensive, but clear. You begin to understand what belongs within your space and what does not. You begin to recognize where access should be limited and where it should be maintained. You begin to move with intention instead of assumption. And in doing so, you close the gaps that once allowed interference to occur. This is how authority operates. Quietly, consistently, without needing external validation. You are not reclaiming through conflict. You are reclaiming through alignment. And alignment is something no one else can take from you. Stay grounded in this position. Do not rush to prove anything. Do not feel the need to justify your awareness. Simply remain aligned with what you now know. Because what is yours does not need to be chased once you are in alignment with it. It returns. It reconnects. It realigns. And you are already stepping into that process now. Type "I reclaim what is mine" in the comments if you are ready to walk in your authority. Blessing code 1010 is now activating restoration and alignment in your life. There are moments in your life when time itself seems to tighten, when what once felt distant suddenly becomes immediate, and what once felt optional becomes necessary. This is one of those moments. Archangel Michael is not only revealing what has happened and why, it is now about what you must do next. And the timing is not open-ended. It is precise. It is urgent. It is focused within the next 72 hours. This is not about panic. This is about alignment under pressure. Because when truth is revealed, there is always a window where your response determines how quickly restoration begins to take form in your life. That window is open for you now, and it will not remain open in the same way indefinitely. Archangel Michael makes this clear. The next 72 hours are not ordinary time. They are a period of heightened awareness, heightened clarity, and heightened opportunity for you to reposition yourself fully. What you choose to do in this period will set the tone for what unfolds next. You are not being asked to confront. You are not being asked to accuse. You are being asked to become still, observant, and intentional. Because action without clarity creates confusion, but stillness with awareness creates precision. The first shift must happen within you. Your thoughts must settle. Your reactions must slow. Your attention must sharpen. You cannot move forward carrying the same level of openness that existed before this awareness. Not because openness is wrong, but because it must now be guided by discernment. What you share, how you share, and who you share with must now pass through a deeper level of awareness. This is not withdrawal. This is protection. Archangel Michael emphasizes that during these 72 hours, you must become more aware of your environment than ever before. Pay attention to interactions. Notice what feels aligned and what does not. Observe without immediately responding. There is information that will reveal itself naturally if you remain present enough to see it. You may notice subtle confirmations, a conversation that reveals more than expected, a reaction that feels out of place, a moment where something becomes clear without effort. These are not coincidences. These are continuations of the exposure already in motion. But they will only be recognized if you remain grounded and attentive. This is why urgency does not mean rushing. It means focus. There is also something else that must shift during this time: your boundaries. Not dramatic boundaries, not confrontational boundaries, but internal ones. A quiet decision about what you will allow moving forward and what you will not. This decision does not need to be announced. and needs to be lived. Because boundaries are not proven through words. They are proven through consistency. Archangel Michael also reveals that this is a time to protect your resources more consciously. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. Pay attention to where your energy goes, where your time goes, where your attention goes. Because all of these are forms of currency, and when they are directed intentionally, they begin to reinforce your alignment. This is how restoration begins. Not through sudden external change, but through internal realignment that naturally influences your external reality. You may also feel a pull toward silence during this period. Not isolation, not avoidance, but a quieter presence. A sense of stepping back just enough to see clearly without being pulled into unnecessary interaction. This is not weakness. This is strategy. Archangel Michael stands with you in this space, guiding without forcing, protecting without restricting. He is not asking you to act out of fear of what has been revealed. He is guiding you to act out of clarity of what you now know. And clarity changes how you move. The next 72 hours are not about fixing everything. They are about positioning yourself correctly. Because once you are positioned, everything else begins to align more naturally. You will begin to feel a difference. A sense of control returning, not over others, but over your own direction. A sense of stability forming where there was once uncertainty. A sense of quiet confidence replacing hesitation. This is the beginning of restoration in motion. But it begins with what you do now. Stay present. Stay aware. Stay aligned. Do not rush ahead of the process, but do not fall behind it either. Move with it. Because this moment will not repeat in the same way. It is here for you now, and what you do within it will echo into what comes next. Type "I move" with clarity now in the comments if you are ready to step into this moment. Blessing code 1212 is now activating protection and precision over your next steps. Here is a moment where everything you have heard, everything you have felt, everything that has been revealed comes together into one undeniable truth. You were never meant to remain in loss. You were never meant to stay in confusion. You were never meant to walk forward unaware while something meant for you was being quietly redirected. And now, that moment has arrived where the cycle ends and a new alignment begins. Archangel Michael stands firm, not in warning anymore but in declaration. Because what was once hidden has now been seen. What was once uncertain has now been understood. What was once affecting you without your awareness has now lost its position of control. This is where restoration begins, not as a distant possibility, but as an active process already unfolding around you. You may not yet see every piece returned, every pathway corrected, every outcome restored, but the shift has already happened. The moment you became aware, the moment you aligned with truth, the moment you stepped out of confusion and into clarity, everything began to change. This is how victory starts. Not with noise, not with confrontation, but with alignment so strong that what does not belong begins to fall away naturally. Archangel Michael declares that what carries your name is now being called back into alignment. What was delayed is being redirected. What was diverted is being traced. What was interfered with is being corrected. Not through force, not through reaction, but through divine order reestablishing itself in your life. You are no longer standing in the same position you were before. You are not the same version of yourself that allowed things to pass unnoticed. You are not the same presence that moved without awareness. You have shifted, and that shift has consequences, not negative consequences, but corrective ones. Because when you change your awareness, everything around you must adjust to meet that new level of clarity. This is where protection becomes active. Not just protection from what was happening, but protection over what is now returning to you. Because restoration without protection would leave room for repetition. But what is happening now is not repetition. It is resolution. Archangel Michael surrounds this process, ensuring that what has been revealed does not return to concealment, that what has been corrected does not return to misalignment, and that what is restored remains connected to you without further interference. You may begin to notice subtle but powerful changes. A sense of calm where there was once tension. A sense of direction where there was once confusion. A sense of stability where there was once inconsistency. These are not small changes. These are signs of alignment taking hold. And as this alignment strengthens, so does your position. You are no longer reacting to what happens around you. You are influencing what happens through your awareness. You are no longer questioning what is meant for you. You are recognizing it. You are no longer uncertain about your path. You are walking in it with clarity. This is victory, not as a single moment, but as a sustained state of alignment where what belongs to you flows toward you without obstruction. Archangel Michael's presence remains with you, not as a temporary guide, but as a constant protection over what you now carry. He does not step away once the message is delivered. He remains within the process, ensuring that what has been set into motion continues to unfold as it should. And now, you stand at the threshold of something different. Not the same patterns, not the same confusion, not the same uncertainty, but a new level of clarity, awareness, and alignment that changes how everything moves from this point forward. This is your declaration moment. Not spoken loudly, not forced outwardly, but held firmly within you. A knowing, a certainty, a recognition that what is yours is returning, and what is not yours is falling away. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to force it. You remain aligned, and it comes. That is the shift. That is the victory. That is the restoration. Stay grounded in this. Stay aligned with this. Because this is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything moving correctly again. Type "I walk in restoration" in the comments if you receive this final declaration. Blessing Code 2020 is now sealing protection, restoration, and victory over your life. As this restoration settles into your spirit, understand that every word you have received here is not just for you. It is a light meant to reach those still walking in confusion, still searching for answers, still waiting for this exact awakening. When you release a super thanks or give through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not supporting a channel. You are sowing seeds into a harvest of souls ready to be awakened. The living word declares, "Bring the full tithe and see if I will not open the windows of heaven," and this promise is speaking directly into your moment right now. I step forward in obedience, knowing that my giving becomes a river of truth flowing into lives that need it most. Your seed today is not ordinary. It is a prophetic act that unlocks favor, multiplies impact, and positions you within divine flow. As you give, heaven responds, lining your path, restoring what was delayed, and expanding what was meant for you. Do not hesitate in this moment. Act with faith, act with purpose, and let your seed carry this message further than you can see.